Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. As we near the end of 2023, I'm reminded of how contrasting this time of year can be for those around the world. Could be a time of celebration or even a time of sorrow, especially during these holidays. We kind of gather with family. Sometimes some chairs are empty, especially now as we're moving past COVID. It still lingers, but as we reminded of those who are not there also. Our stories also can provide an understanding and also a healing for it, how we reframe and how we decide and make that decision to move forward. Last month, we discussed how the difference between building a home and a house, and it's just a verbiage, but it also reminds me as we go into these stories and thinking and finding ways to find hope. I also reminded of those who are struggling during this time of year. I want to say this before, and a lot of times I want to stress this a little bit more. Those who are in crisis, I do encourage you, whether you're in the States or elsewhere around the world, find what, I don't like reinventing the wheel, but in the United States we have 988. This is Suicide Lifeline. But whatever resource, if you go to church or you have some activity, some group, the three words that I want people to actually ask is, I need help. As adults, it's kind of hard for us at times, but whatever environment you're in, not to reinvent the wheel, those are the ones that I would encourage you to reinforce and to kind of seek out, if you are seeking help. Today we have a returning guest. Her name is Sara Im. Thank you so much for coming back and sharing your insight. Your story last year was so powerful, but I'm just so glad, especially this time of year is kind of hard for some. So thank you again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me back, Robert.
No problem. A lot of times reminded that people have said things a lot better than I have. And I'd like to start off with a quote so we can kind of talk about this time of year, and also just when we talk about our stories and the direction we're going. I used this quote last month, but I find it very compelling. It's from George Moore. I want to hear your thoughts. A man travels the world over in search of what he needs and returns home to find it. What comes to mind when you hear this quote, Sara Im? Any insight, anything that when you hear this go, anything pop up in your mind?
Well, sometimes we don't know what is out there until we go out and really look for it, and most of the time what we have is a blessing. We have so many blessings that we have it with us, but we didn't recognize it.
Yeah.
So we always think that out there is better and more beautiful and more happier and so on. But actually, we forget that God bless us with what we have right now. We better love it, better appreciate and be grateful for what we have.
You mentioned grateful. It's gratitude can be very healing. Reminder of not what we lack, but what we have. I always kind of, I could go to a beautiful island, Sarah, and I could be miserable. If I'm miserable here, eventually I'll be miserable there. So it's kind
Yeah.
of, sometimes we search elsewhere. Sometimes, I guess, the hardest conversations are the ones from within, like the conversations we have with ourselves.
Yes, yes. What we have inside of us is it's what it come out, because sometimes we think that we are okay, but if it's inside, it's not okay. It eventually it will come out. So
Yeah, you bring up a good point with that, because a lot of times we look externally, and generally speaking, we could generalize our situation, our story, what's going on, but it doesn't work well because we're different. We come from different backgrounds, different understanding, different ideas of what success is to us. And like I said, you came last year and you shared such a compelling story. I just want to ask you, when it comes to the element of understanding one story, what has helped you keep moving forward? Keep saying, I want to be better. I want to not just improve myself, but I want this. Just, you mentioned gratitude. What other elements has helped you move forward, and what elements did not help you in regards to your story, or anything else? Anything you want to share, Sarah?
besides gratitude, what else is, I found myself that if I have a purpose, that
Hmm.
I try to achieve a certain purpose that is worthy, a noble purpose, it kind of draw me keep moving forward toward that purpose.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I
so
feel like. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, so having that purpose is very, very healing, and
Hmm.
it's very motivating.
Yeah, and purpose is so important. I do. I'm not. I know that people do struggle and can get complacent and maybe may appear, quote unquote. We use the word lazy. That kind of word. But I don't feel if someone has purpose, lazy kind of dissipates. You get someone on a direction where they feel they can do something. So I think inherently sometimes, um, we can get complacent. We can blame either ourselves too much. Another word you mentioned gratitude, but another thing that I found helpful is forgiveness.
Oh
Forgiving
yes,
ourselves, forgiving
yes,
those who've harmed us. Those are components, at least from even remember my story, just has helped move forward. Anything else you want to add, Sarah?
forgiveness. That's very important. And another thing is to be kind to ourselves, be
Hmm.
kind to other people.
Yeah, I kind of just such, everything's so busy now. I can imagine. Like, I asked someone, "How are they doing?" They don't say "okay" anymore. They said, "Oh, I'm busy." Oh, I'm busy. There's no longer "okay." It's now I'm busy, and I feel being kinder to yourself. You won't. Um, I kind of use this illustration lately, and I feel it's it has helped me, especially those hard, long days. Is if you're an NBA player, if you're a basketball player, if everything is about to win the NBA championship and nothing else, then sometimes, if that's the case, you may have a lot of pressure. You might end up hating basketball because the fact of the matter is, it's always this one accolade that you want to get. But however, when you actually start practicing and understanding some of your weak points and things you're strong at, you begin to just enjoy even the discomfort. And that's where I feel that kind of middle ground is where sometimes I find the most growth. It's not all going to be easy. It's just finding like the day to day, the in betweens, the big milestones, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes, yeah. That's why I said be kind, because sometimes you fail,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to forgive yourself, and you be kind to yourself, because we all make mistakes. So
I
we have to recognize that we are human.
Yeah, I know. I feel a lot of times, humor has a lot of insight, a lot of wisdom to it, because um, I feel as humans we're exceptional and unimpressive at the same time. We could be both at any time, but it is honestly being kinder to yourself. We can't be awesome at everything. It's not realistic, but at the same time, um, just because I'm not able to do these things or all these things as well doesn't mean that my value dissipates. It's kind of understanding oneself and getting to whatever that place may be. I think one thing about this whole conversation when it comes to our stories is connections. You know, you can't have a story and not connect with other. A lot of times stories are said or mentioned to share. I would imagine sometimes, old like my parents or my grandparents will share a story to give insight, maybe some lesson or something like that, especially when you're to your children or however. But I think connections is a big component. Robin Sharma said, "We live in a world where many of us have a lot of friends on Facebook, but yet have lost human connection."
Yeah.
I know Facebook, this seems a little bit dated because everyone has transitioned out of Facebook somewhat, but it still holds weight. We could just supplement with social media or social network, however you want to say. But it is true. We have so many friends. We have these digital friends, and I feel sometimes it can be, it can, I guess when it comes to the story element and connecting, some of the lessons we talk about, forgiveness, gratitude, connection. That's where I kind of intersect, because what do we do around this time of year? Whether you're faith-based or not, it seems like we try to connect. Around the end of the year, we try to be like, "Hey, how are you doing?" You start calling family members that you never call because you're busy. I use the word again, but you try to connect. So what comes to mind when you hear this quote, or any commentary or anything that you want to share when you think about how we connect today?
Well, connection is very healing because people, human beings, cannot survive without any connection. That's not possible. That's why God created you to be accompanied with with Adam. So that's from the beginning. So we need a human connection. That's how um, we try. We can understand each other. You mentioned story. The story is where we can find the connection between two people. It's because sometimes just connect on Facebook, on all social, any kind of social media, we don't really know the person. That's why it's not the same as the in-person, face-to-face connection. Because when we are face-to-face connected, we can look at each other, look at their eye, look at their facial expression, and then hear their story. You can put it all together. That's what we can draw to each other. We can find something in common.
Yeah. And you could go even further down, like in the idea of when the baby's born, a lot of it is about touch. They need to be held.
Yes.
And as they grow, and there has been a lot of studies about there's about this healing touch, like holding the parents, always being taking the time to hold their child, and I find that whether you're an introvert or not, if you like to have your alone time, it's something that when it comes to connection, it is, we're not islands. I know that's very cliche and we say this a lot, but I think Robin Williams, and I didn't put it in here, but I use him a lot because he was a comedian. He was on TV all the time. People knew him. He seemed like the happiest person out there. But he passed away from suicide a couple 6 years ago. And one of the quotes that kind of haunts me is like he says, "I thought the hardest thing in life is," I'm paraphrasing, "is to be alone." He said, "The hardest thing in life to be around people who make me feel alone." So it's not the quantity of people, sometimes the quality. And sometimes I feel that with connection, sometimes we could be deceived. I just need to be around so many people. Doesn't mean if you're not having that connection. You could be around one person. You don't need, the number doesn't matter. It's, I guess, the quality. And I feel if a person, I don't know, what's your thoughts on that? And then I want to transition to also talk a little bit about what's going on with you and an update on you. So to wrap up connection and what I mentioned with Robin Williams, what are your thoughts? Anything you want to add or say?
Well, you said it, a connection. Sometimes you feel you are among many people, but you feel so lonely. You feel so alone. That because we lose connection, we cannot connect with other, or other cannot connect with us. So that's very dangerous. So we have to learn. I myself have to learn to listen to other people. What is in their mind? What are they concerned about? What they worry about? So when we care for each other, that's what made the relationship, made the connection stronger, more understanding. Because people's need is being cared for, being listened to, being valued. So when we value each other enough, we want to know what's going on in their life.
Yeah, and it's just being kinder. You mentioned kindness. It's when you think about that statement, I'd be around a lot of people, but not feel, but I feel more alone. And there's that element of that. But like you said, I think it starts a lot of times with how we are and how we're kind to others. It's funny. We could be at a restaurant around this time. It's really busy. People go out and they eat, and I feel sorry for those waiters and waitresses who are new, and they maybe get overwhelmed, and they get one of the meals wrong, and I try to hold myself, and even though maybe we're waiting, whatever, I say I'll try to be kind. The fact of the matter is, I don't know what the person went through. Is it going to affect me? I just, you could still be kind and say, hey, this is not what I ordered, and get it back, But at the same time, if we put everything that we felt that week and say, you know what, I'm going to throw it out at you because you made my dinner a little bit longer, I think at the same time that human kindness can actually help when we're thinking about our neighbor, our community, and especially this time of year. I just encourage that. I want to switch gears and kind of talk about, give an opportunity, obviously for new guests, but also returning to share what's been going on, any updates. I know last time you shared a very compelling story that, it was inspiring just how you persevered at the end. If you don't mind, could you just share a little bit of just the setting, not the whole story, but just what happened and where you are today, and then a little bit about any updates of what's going on with you now? That's okay.
Sure. Yeah, just briefly, in case we have new listener that did not know my story, I just review quickly that I grew up in Cambodia, and in 1975 I went away from home to attend college in the capital city. That's when the communist Khmer Rouge took over the country, and I was separated from my family without. I tried desperately to find a way to reconnect with my family, but I can't because they shut down everything, including the bus line and the airplane. So I got no connection with my family. That was very painful. When you are going through hard time, anything bad happen to us, we want to be close to the people that we love.
Yeah.
And in my case, it's not possible for me to find my family. So I struggled through the change of this the regime, the war. I was held captive in the forced labor camp and forced to work extremely hard and receive very little food and no time to rest and work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week without rest time, and got very little sleep. So I end up getting very sick.
Yeah.
And when I got too sick to work, they sent me to an infirmary, waiting to die.
Yeah.
But I was not about to give up. I was fighting to survive because I have a purpose. I talk about purpose. My purpose is to go back home to find my family. So with that purpose, I was trying different things. So I escaped out of the infirmary. But thank goodness I was fortunate that God probably answered my prayer.
Yeah.
He sent me to have a little job in the kitchen, to help out in the kitchen. So that's how I survived my very first attempt to escape.
Yeah. I just remember you telling me that, just how bleak the situation was. People were really sick at the infirmary, and you just felt like this is it, and you made that choice to leave, not knowing if anyone what was going to happen, and you were lucky enough. And I would say, faith ways, God was there, and you were giving. Yeah, you were still had to work, but you were able, be able to find a way to survive, and you're here today. And now, a year later, after you told that story on this podcast, what has changed? Anything you want to share? Any updates?
Yes, a little more update. But the last time we talked, it was in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Now things is getting better, and people are going out and have more in-person activities. So I start to organize in-person event, wellness events, health fair, and all that. And also I add another component to my service is to provide coaching service for people that, sometimes people read the book and they get inspired, and sometimes they listen to my talk, they get inspired, but sometimes either they, after reading, after listening, they still need extra help because their wound is too deep and need more help. So that's why I decided to add another service. That means coaching. I'm willing to coach one-on-one to help out. So that's new.
That's new, and I think it's wonderful. All the information will be in the notes. Those who are listening, but the idea is service. You're serving. You're doing. You're helping those, like you mentioned. Some people are different learners. That's very true. Some people are just need to read it and they get it. Sometimes they want to hear it and they get it. But sometimes you need a little more. I remember at the beginning of this episode, I mentioned find that environment, find that resource, find that help. And as adults, we're bad at asking those three words, I need help. But, if you do need help and you need coaching, I would encourage you to check out what Sara Im is doing. Okay, those who are listening and those who may need that service. I want to kind of switch gears and thank you so much for, again, sharing a little bit again of your story. A lot of times, you mentioned a lot that kind of answers some of this, but I want to ask you as we again anyway. But what has helped you stay connected to your story? Because 1975, that's a long time ago for some. A lot of times we're bad rememberers of what sometimes like an inspiring story in someone's life that changed them sometimes kind of dissipates if it's not remembered or kind of appreciated. What has helped you stay connected to your story, and then what has inspired you in the way that you're doing right now to help others as you are right now?
Well, what helped me to stay connected with to my story is the life lesson that I learned.
Mm.
I learned a lot during my struggle time. The adversity, sometimes you learn because we don't learn too much when we are happy and joyful, and you're just happy, you just enjoy it, you don't.
Yeah.
But when you are in adversity and being painful, and you really try to survive, try to get out of the painful situation, that's how you learn. So for me, it's the reminder that I have been there. So the pandemic here, it reminds me, oh, I have been in captivity for 4 years.
Hmm. Yes.
And so I always try to reconnect the current situation to my story, and
Hmm.
it's inspired me, encouraged me to know that God was with me.
Hmm.
Throughout this journey, God was there. In every corner, I look around, I look back, I say, God must be there, because it could not happen without help.
Yeah.
Oh,
And like, staying connected to oneself, and like I mentioned in the beginning, um, remember your story. Remember your context. I feel it becomes more of a um, deeper connection. A lot of times, even though this podcast does not its focus is not on proselyting, but it is. I'm faith based, but what I do like about at least what Revive Ministries I'm trying to do is continue the conversation. One thing that I was, that is clear is some of these conversations are not comfortable, and I feel that's okay. These
right,
conversations are they're not supposed to be comfortable at times. I
right.
remember you mentioned gratitude in the beginning. I remember this older lady in church when I was. She said people are either blessings or lessons in life. They're either blessings or lessons in life, and it's also so complicated. Going back to the Robin Williams quote, well, I paraphrase was in a church setting, being a leader, I noticed that someone could be in remission for cancer. Everyone's praising God for that. But one thing I noticed about human beings is if we're not careful, amongst that whole congregation, someone else could have lost someone from cancer. So it's
Mm,
a difficult situation because someone's good news can be someone's bad news. But at the same time, stay connected, and like you mentioned, purpose, forgiveness, forgive yourself, be kind. A lot of times we have hold resentment because someone else's good news or whatnot. I feel when we're able to forgive ourselves, forgive others, be kinder to ourselves, those are good traits to start with and kind of heal with. Kind of build on what you're saying, but also nobody can teach me who I am. You can describe parts of me, but who I am and what I need is something I have to find out myself. And I think I encourage those who are listening to find out who you are in a weird way. A lot of times we don't take the time because we're too busy. I think the smaller talks we have in ourselves lead up to the bigger talks. We got such small, and it's not always these big, huge steps, but it's the steps that are needed. I want to ask you, as kind of wrap up, what would you want people to be reminded of this December? I know It's the holidays for most. It's also a time for connecting regarding finding hope in our stories, but also what would you like to be reminded when a lot of times it's kind of a contrasting kind of time of year. Some people, like when I was little, I'll tell you this, Sarah, when I was little, I lived up north, so there was snow all the time. I see my father, and he's kind of like not a happy face. I'm like, why is he not happy? Well, because I'm out of school, I'm playing in the snow, and he's shoveling snow. So obviously, I didn't know at the time. But what would making little like, but in the regards to contrast, is that some of this time is wonderful time. People get to come together finally. At the end of the year, families get together, but at the same time, there is also people. It can be contrasting, especially older individuals who notice certain people are not around the table anymore. We lost a lot of people during COVID. We lost a lot of people in general because that's just how life happens. So, what would you like people to be reminded in December when we're trying to find hope in our stories, wherever they are? And any final thoughts you want to mention?
Yeah, for me, I would say that December is the time of reflection throughout the year. What was good, what was not so good, but I am tend to be more optimistic. But I would recommend that try to find goodness in any situation. If you have a bumper during this year, something that you didn't like about, but find something that is good about it. Whatever situation, you can look from one point of view, but if you turn around and look from another point of view, you will see goodness in it. You will find goodness. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would also like to piggyback on the idea that when you are struggling and everyone has their story, I would say just try to control what you can. If you're having a bad day, if you're struggling out there, and all you can do is go out for a walk and go back to bed because you're really sick or you're not feeling very well, do that. But I just encourage those who are listening, if you get to the point where it's overwhelming, get help. It's okay. Just get help.
Yeah.
And this time of year, there's no shame in getting help. A lot of times we're like, oh well, I shouldn't be here. Don't listen about the shouldn'ts. Those are general statements. You're at where you're at, and that's where we're dealing with. So I just encourage those, be kinder to yourself. Not just be kinder to those around you. I do encourage that, but be kinder to yourself. You're where you're at. It's not going to be this big step. Maybe the biggest step you can do is just say that you need help. Start from there. So I just want to say, and thank you so much for just coming on and sharing with us today. Any final things you want to share before we end? I'm gonna, like I said to those who are listening, all the notes on Sara Im and what she is doing will be in the notes, so do check it out. Any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Final thought is this: try to find love. Find people that love you and that appreciate you. So those are the people that you want to have around you at all times. When you are down, you hold on to that person. The person that support you no matter what. They love you because they love you. They support you.
Yes, I agree. Be careful. Well, not careful. Choose love when you choose the ones around you, and I totally agree. And I feel we're not going to all see eye to eye, but let's have an understanding heart and be kinder to each other.
Yes.
Thank you again, Sarah, for being on. As I want to share with those who are listening, go to ReviveMinistriesFL.com. Find out more. All the links are there. This is goodbye from Revive Ministries Podcast, leaving with the last quote. It's from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It says, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward.